Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are here for our 11 a.m. session here on the Growth Club, day 2. Welcome back. If it's your first time, I find that hard to believe, but glad you're here. Growth Club Summit, powered by the firm. We're going to talk about workflow, AI, compliance, productivity, and a whole bunch of stuff, and we have been doing so far over the last day and a half. Right now, we're about to jump into AI is here now. Now what? A practical guide for those using AI without losing your edge. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to Billie Mcloughlin. Billie is amazing. I've met Billie a few times. She's based in the UK, and today she's giving you some really good practical insights on how to use AI, particularly in tools you might already be using in your business. So that is going to be great. Just going through the regular housekeeping, this session's being recorded, transcribed by the wonderful team at Vinyl. You can catch up on transcripts, get key takeaways from every single session. You'll find out ways on how to do that by email once the summit concludes. There's one CPT point available for this session, powered by the wonderful team at AccrediWise. We'll have more details on that as well once the summit concludes on how to get and verify that. And then we are giving away up to $500 in cash. So all you need to do is tag us on LinkedIn, use the hashtag Growth Club, photo, snap this session, whatever you want to do. Make sure that we can see it and get it out in the world, and then you'll go in the draw. So my recommendation is find something you've liked from a session you've been in or anything the last couple of days. Tag your friends, watch party, popcorn, whatever. I want to see the creative posts, and then you go in the draw to win. So I look forward to seeing all those, and thanks for those that have been doing it so far. But now I want to introduce you to our partners who have been supporting us all the way through. So thank you to Intuit for their support being our major partner of the event. And then thank you to the other vendors and suppliers that support the accounting community. And I think you should. We only try to work with good people that we think are doing great things. And, everyone that's listed here is doing amazing things for this industry. I recommend you check them out if you have not already. They're doing wonderful things, as I said. Now, Billie Mcloughlin is a practice consultant at 2020 Innovation Training, based over in the UK, and she's about to run us through AI is here. Now what? What do we do? How does this work? So Billie, over to you. Thank you so much. We're so glad you're here. I'll let you take it away. I'll let you share your slides and let us know how it's all working. Jump in the chat. Let us know you can hear and see everything okay as well. That would be cool. And I'll come back at the end and we'll wrap this session up. Thank you, Billie. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Trent, and it's amazing to be here. I'm sure there has been so much to absorb, and this will no doubt be no different. So, as I said, I'm really excited to be here to talk around artificial intelligence and what it actually means for accountants. There will be a slight bit of theory, obviously, but the idea today is I'm here to give you some practical, actual use cases. What do we do now that it's incepted our market so strongly? So for today, I will touch a little bit around human intelligence versus artificial intelligence. I'll talk to you about having the right tools for the job, how to get the most out of artificial intelligence, and also a bit on future gazing. Having said that, I'm not someone that talks too much about the future because it changes so quickly. I did see something just yesterday that listed around 15 tools, none of which even existed 3 months ago. So even just trying to think of what's going to happen in the next quarter is almost impossible. So starting off with HI versus AI, I guess, is kind of like the battle against human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And as accountants especially, and people that are working in the finance industry, human intelligence is absolutely our superpower. Yes, AI can now reason, it can detect tones of voice, but as humans, we understand the nuance of a conversation when we're speaking with our clients. So what AI is going to do is it is going to reframe our profession, but it's going to make us reviewers and it's going to make us high-level action takers because we've got that superpower of human intelligence. I would see it as kind of getting us out of the day-to-day weeds of doing the job. So we've all got an aspect of being in industry where we have a few tasks that we do through gritted teeth, and it means that we can really excel and excuse the pun, but we can really excel in areas of our job that we enjoy doing. And actually what you'll find is they're the areas that our clients really appreciate as well. So what better place to start than with a definition? And this is one that I found on Wikipedia, so I'm not going to claim that I made this up. But in the simplest of terms, artificial intelligence is when a machine can do something that is something ordinarily that would require human intelligence. So maybe making a decision, for example, or recognizing speech is a good one. If you think you haven't used AI in the past, something as simple as spell check is artificial intelligence. And if we're looking a bit more in the future, maybe the whole self-driving cars, that is also artificial intelligence. So two completely different ends of the spectrum. We've been using it for a very, very long time. The difference is now, and I'm not going to go into the history of how AI has been around from the 50s and how it beat somebody at a game of chess or Go or whatever it was. The reason why artificial intelligence has incepted our market and the world and taken it by storm so much now is because it's accessible. And that's for two reasons. First of all, the amount of data that is now available at the click of a button because of the internet, and also because that's been made available, AI is now available at a decent price point. So previously, this has been reserved for multi-billion pound corporations. It has been around for a long time, but now it's available to people with smaller businesses and even individuals as well. So this obviously was created by AI, this image, and the idea was a bit of a businessman losing balance, because there is an issue here that we could lose balance if we don't get this right. So if we did decide to put more reliance on the machines and go like full AI, we're going to lose that relationship with our clients. And I speak to accountants all day long. I was in practice myself for 13 years. It is the main part of our job. It's the thing that we love doing the most. And when I speak to accountants, again, it's our superpower. It's what we want to do. We want to help people, and people buy from people. So if you put too much onus on machines, you're going to lose that relationship with your clients. Similarly, skills are going to be forgotten, and we're seeing this already. You know, juniors probably don't need to do T accounts, or for me, I was doing A3 analysis pads and ticking off bank statements with several different coloured highlighters. That's no longer needed, which could be a positive, but also if a junior member puts an invoice on a product like Xero, are they going to understand the debit and credit that happens there? Well, we're already at risk of that. So imagine that with this new wave of artificial intelligence as well. There's also a security risk. So with all this incredible opportunity, unfortunately, there also comes a lot of threat. So we need to be aware of this and not put too much on the machines that sort of, if anything happened to them, our entire business would be gone. And similarly with the humans, if we decide, actually, we're not going to touch AI, we don't want to be part of this, there's going to be a huge increase in cost with regards to using people in the place of machines where they can do some of the things that they do. This is not me saying that you make people redundant and put everything they do through a computer. What it is saying is let the machines do some of those tasks that are repetitive, and let your team do the things that the computers can't do and what the clients value. It's also very resource heavy. So if we think about things like downtime, and that your team members, they do want to go on holiday, they do have sick days, and they do like to sleep. Well, obviously machines don't, and that's a great benefit of them. So again, that's an advantage that your competitors would have if you didn't use computers and AI at all. And regardless of which way you go, if you're going to lose that balance, your employee satisfaction and client satisfaction will undoubtedly drop, because you'll have team members thinking, why are we doing this? This is not something we should be doing. It could be automated. And on the other hand, you've also got this aspect of, well, there's no value to me here. So there's a really, really important thing to strike. And it could lead to great things. So I'm not going to go through these, and I'm sure I'll get a copy of the slides, but a few things just to point out here is that if you're using AI, it's going to really enhance things like decision making. It's going to make your practice so much more scalable and ultimately much, much more profitable, which means more opportunity for your firm and also your team. Whether you want to kind of stay the same size or grow, it's up to you. But all these things can be done by utilizing AI in the right way. So moving on to AI and kind of the tools. So as I said, for me, it's very practical. We want to be talking about the practical use cases. Well, a lot of the tools, and as I mentioned already with regards to spell check, you are already using them. So it feels a bit more safe. We have this comfort blanket, I feel, when we already use a tool and they integrate a new feature. Because we think, well, we already trust this system, this software with our data, and now it's producing something that is going to be beneficial and we can trust it. So, for example, unlocking your phone with your face, that is using AI. And checking social media and you get posts that are suggested to you, Spotify, Netflix, all those suggestions, they're already artificial intelligence that you're using day to day. So from the moment you get out of bed and you potentially check social media, you get a recommendation, you use maps to get to work, you use spell check on your emails or Grammarly, for example, and then on the way home you listen to something. It's all artificial intelligence. So please don't think that this is some really futuristic, scary thing that's going to come in and sort of take over everything. This is something that we're already comfortable using. So if I go back to those tools that we're using, Microsoft Copilot is a big one. And I don't know if anybody recognises this guy. I put him in disguise just to throw you off a little bit. But for me, I feel like it's the return of Clippy. So Clippy was the little guy that used to sit on your screen, give you these suggestions, and actually was a little bit irritating quite often, which I think is why he probably got discontinued. Microsoft Copilot for me is like a new improved Clippy with a superhero kit. But he is very, very helpful. Microsoft Copilot understands what it is that you're doing, and it can make suggestions and take it one step further by not just making that suggestion, but going away and helping you execute that. So something I wanted to bring to your attention when it comes to using these tools and whether it is something that you're already using, so Microsoft Copilot, for example, there are free versions and paid for versions. So if you're going to use a standalone product, and we're going to come on to some of those in a moment, if you're going to use a standalone product like OpenAI's ChatGPT, which, I mean, now it does, but is kind of like a product on its own, it doesn't connect to anything, we'll come on to that in a moment, then in that case, you are kind of putting all the onus on that and you feel like it's not very safe. It doesn't have access to your day-to-day today. When you're using something like Copilot, there is this feeling that your data is safe. Regardless of what you're using, I would always go with this thought process that free just is not, it's not as safe as a paid for version. So the security you get with a paid for version is so much better. We saw DeepSeek incept the market earlier this year, and it was free and everybody went nuts because the capabilities were fantastic for a free model. But unfortunately, the risk associated with a free product, because if it's free, generally you are the product and so is your data, that is how you are paying for it. So bringing it back to Microsoft then. So if you're using the free one, you do get access to this kind of like chat bot. It's a bit static, but you've got this chat bot. It doesn't connect with your company files and it can use publicly available data. And there's also no admin control, so you can't make some people aware of certain documents and not others. Whereas if you're using the paid for one, this integrates with your Microsoft 365. So it will become available in all of your apps that you're using, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. And it can also access your company documents and information. So I'm not going to cover agents in much detail, but a little bit later on I will discuss with you kind of a use case that I saw recently around building a model on the information that they had in their system. So because it's got access to your company documents, it's really easy for you to ask it a question and say, based on our marketing guidelines, for example, could you create a marketing plan for a campaign that we want to do for a certain industry? Similarly, you might say, could you have a look at all of our payroll documents and make sure they're all up to date? So there's a lot of things that it can do because it can access your information. There's also enterprise level security, and it is fully encrypted. So hopefully you see the difference between a free and a paid for model. When I said it has access to your apps, this is what I mean. So if I go into Excel and I just got AI to create me a dummy profit and loss account here just for the basis of this presentation, on the screen here you can see there is profit and loss on the left. I've then clicked the Copilot button in the ribbon at the top, and on the right hand side Copilot's popped up to help me, again like Clippy did. So this is my nice useful Copilot on the right hand side, and I can speak to this in natural language. And this is another reason why AI seems to have exploded recently, is we no longer have to learn code, we no longer have to be able to speak in computer language and using things like Python. We can use natural language to ask it a question and get a natural language response. So if you've paid for the paid for version, you'll have access to this. And in this instance, I've just said to it, could you please tell me what the difference in gross profit is? And it's told me its workings and said, based on the values in cell D and cell C10 and D10, the result is 70,000. And that's how it's worked it out. Now, this is a really basic use case, but I just wanted to show you where it is and how it looks, so it's not alien when you do get there. And recently I had a chat with a few accountants who said that they understand that artificial intelligence is useful, is going to be useful, it's something that they should be using, but they're really struggling with inspiration on how to use it. So where can it actually be used? So what I thought here was I would just list through Microsoft some of the areas I think it could enhance your work. And it's important here to remember that this is not to replace you. This is just going to maybe displace what we're doing, but it's definitely not going to replace. This is how it will enhance the work we do. And it's not going to take work off you. It's going to assist you when it comes to the work that you're doing. So in Excel, we could use Copilot to automate calculations. We can perform forecasting really, really easy. We can identify anomalies, and this is really great if you have clients that bring you in big spreadsheets and they kind of need a little bit of TLC. We need to look through it. It's very, very good at picking up things that maybe don't match the status quo of the rest of the spreadsheet. And also, one of my favorite things is it can help with formula. So previously, when I was trying to do a formula and I would just stick my head over the monitor at work and say, oh my gosh, I just want it to be able to do this, and I couldn't figure out what formula to put in place. Well, actually, what you can do is you can speak to it in natural language, just like I would have a little moan to my colleagues and say, I just want it to do this. I could say to it, could you please X, Y, and Z in normal human language. In Teams, there is the ability to transcribe meetings. The caveat here for me is that that is only in Teams. So if you've got clients and sometimes you're meeting them on Zoom and Google, it's quite siloed, but it does highlight certain topics and suggest action points. We've also got it in Word where it can assist with drafting reports. So I've fed it some financial data and said, could you just draft a report for me for this client for a year-end meeting? I've also asked it to create summaries and said, could you tell me what things my client would be interested in? And a really great kind of link here is if you've previously had a meeting with that client and you've got the notes from that because you've transcribed it, you could pop that into Copilot and say, based on this meeting, this transcript, could you please tell me what my client would be interested in based on this financial data? And then it would create that summary. And it's also really good at writing letters as well. And then in Outlook, you've got things like summarizing email threads, editing emails. So maybe you want it to be a little bit more formal, maybe a bit more chatty. And also it can suggest replies. So there's loads that you can do just in this product. And there's so many other things on the market. So I thought rather than just concentrate on the one that we all feel safe in, a few additional use cases as well. And again, please bear in mind that the paid for versions of these are always the best ones. And that doesn't mean you have to go out and spend hundreds of pounds each month or hundreds of dollars each month on these products. What you can do is you can have a free trial, or you can look at the ones that you think would be the most useful. And this is not something that I kind of had a slide on or anything, but a really important point that I want to raise with you is that when it comes to paying for artificial intelligence products specifically, because they're relatively new to us, when you think about paying $25 a month for an AI product and you want to roll it out across your whole team, I would honestly bet my house on the fact that every single member in that team will see a 5 times return in their first month on that. So they will save that $25 in time, fivefold, easy, in the first month if you allow them access to the tools. And this goes across all the tools I'm going to go through. So don't rush into it. Don't think, oh my gosh, there's so many out there. What do I look at? There's millions of different products and lots that now have AI just rubber stamped on the wrapper, which isn't necessarily true. So start slowly, have a look into them. And my favorite use case for a beginner entry level product is always a note taker. Always start with a note taker. So if you haven't rolled out note takers in your practice yet, this is undoubtedly the best return I've seen from all the accountants I speak to. This is the one where they see the biggest impact, and it's because the team feel included. So as a partner of a practice, you'll go meet the client, you'll probably make notes, come back to the office, pop the file on that person's desk while they're out for lunch, and that's it. It's kind of out of your head until they return with the amendments that you asked them to do. Being the person that's had that file put on my desk, first of all, I can say that every partner I've worked for writes in hieroglyphics, so it's really difficult to decipher their handwriting. And second of all, sometimes I want a bit more context. So where the partner's maybe just written a figure or a sentence, I kind of want to know a bit more about the conversation. So this is the reason why note takers are really taking the accountancy world by storm, because ultimately what happens is the manager can look at it and think, actually, what they did say was X, Y, and Z. And okay, they've got a new edition. Did they say that was the partner's written that there's a new edition? But if I can listen to the transcript or watch the transcript or read the transcript, I can see that edition is more than 2 years old and therefore it's a different tax treatment. And there's so many use cases with note takers as well. So producing social posts, creating FAQ literature, and something else is you could categorize it. So all of your transcripts from one industry, for example, can be put in one place and you can draw down on information from different industries. So this is the best place to start if you haven't started on AI yet, because what happens is you increase the excitement of your team members who then start to think, right, this was great, what else can we use? And then next up is the OCR tools. So if you're not using something like Dex, I would highly recommend doing so. And there's a million reasons why, but in the context of artificial intelligence, we saw just about 6 weeks ago, ChatGPT launched their image generation tool, and it was the best image generation tool that we'd seen. So yes, you could get it to create you a fake taxi receipt, no problem. But some people took it one step further of taking a picture of an actual receipt. So bear in mind the address, the date, the VAT number was 100% correct. And they just asked it to amend the amount at the end. So as a human, and I think if we were all honest with ourselves here, looking at this receipt, would we have been able to identify that this was a fictitious receipt? Because if I Googled the Euston Station upper crust, it exists and that is their VAT number. And they have a server called Vanessa. So it seems really, really legitimate, but we need to be using tools to help us combat the threat that AI brings. So you can see here there's an orange label across the top that says this item appears to have been generated by artificial intelligence. Now, I was really impressed by the speed in which Dex brought this out. There is a small caveat because, again, it just keeps getting better. If you took a screenshot of this and posted it, it may not pick it up because it reads the metadata of the image. So that is something to bear in mind. But if we think about it properly, the chance of us picking it up, slim. Chance of something like this picking it up, much, much higher. So I would much rather go for that option, even if there are still some risks associated with it. And ChatGPT is another tool that if you haven't started using it, please do start using it. I mean, the feature releases are thick and fast. Whether you started using it or not, I've got a few tips for you. Again, please use the paid for version, preferably the Teams one rather than just Plus, just because there's more features available to you, like the new connectors, and let your whole team have access to this. If you just let one or two people or a siloed department, you're not going to get the full impact of the use of something like this. So my first tip here is to let chat get to know you. So when you're in your ChatGPT account, if you click on the top right hand side, as you can see here, there's a drop down menu, and highlighted you can see customize ChatGPT. So when you log in, go into these settings and you can give it insights into you and your firm. So you could say, I am a firm, I am based in Melbourne, I have clients of this size, this is our team setup. You can give it as much information as you want about you and your practice, about your clients. And then what happens is when it is responding, it takes into account all of this foundational knowledge that it has about you and can give you much more concise answers. It's also worth knowing that what you get on the paid for version is SOC 2 Type 2 security, which is great because this means that the model's not going to learn from your data and spit it out elsewhere. But do bear in mind that if your clients want to retract anything that you put in, so if you put in their national insurance number, ChatGPT does claim to redact it. I'm not sure if it does, but it's hard to know exactly where that data is going and delete it out of the system. But the security on the paid for version is probably better than a lot of the accounting tools that you use at the moment. And again, a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of reassurance as well. It's not become a staple just yet. It is something that I'm seeing most practices use weekly, but I would say a lot of them are still not using it daily. So I don't want you to sit here thinking, oh my gosh, we're way behind. We are not using this as much as we should be. Great, I'm glad you're thinking like that, and I really hope that this means that you will. But don't think that you're behind the curve and you've missed the boat, because that's not the case. So in terms of some more use cases when it comes to something like ChatGPT is appeal letters. So if there is something technical that you need to mention, please use appeal letters. Please use it to try and write appeal letters. I would say a really interesting case that we've just seen in the UK is somebody used it to go to first tier tribunal. Unfortunately, they did lose, but the first tier tribunal didn't say they shouldn't have used AI. Instead, what they did was they came out with a few suggestions to say, this is how you should use it going forward, e.g. checking the case numbers, making sure they exist, doing a bit more research. So even sort of looking at appeals, there is an expectation that artificial is going to be used. Also research for technical queries on benefits for a director. We saw that one this week with some accountants. Responding to emails, so feeding it an entire email thread and then asking it to do a response. And the accountant I spoke to said that the reply was, well, they're his words there, amazing detailed reply. And then looking into tax implications, ironically for a client who was emigrating to Australia and doing that research. Now, the two in red, the reason I've put them in red is because these are research projects. So I'll come on to deep research on the next slide, but you do need to have some sense of being able to check these and not relying too heavy on the models just in case it does come up with something fictitious. So with regards to those research ones, a new feature of ChatGPT is the deep research model. So this actually has access to the internet and a little bit different to how you're using it at the moment, where it maybe comes up with a response in 5 minutes or so. It can take between 10 and 30 minutes to do this report. However, if you compared how long it would take a human to do that report, I would say for every 10 minutes AI takes, you would probably be looking at 10 hours maybe of human research based on some of the ones that I've done. And then it will bring you a report. But the difference now is that instead of it just giving you a nice concise answer, it can literally give you like a 10-page report that you've then got to review. So if you are looking to use this, you do get 10 deep research requests a month on the Teams version. But I'm just going to show you an example here. So I asked it to create a full report on the reason a sole trader should incorporate into a limited company and also consider some tax implications. So this is the prompt I gave it. We'll come on to prompting in a second. And using the normal ChatGPT model, this is the response it gave me, which it gave me two options. I had response 1 on the left-hand side and I had response 2 on the right-hand side. It did as I asked. It gave headings. It made it seem clear and concise. And I was really impressed with the response, considering it did it in a matter of minutes. I could then select which response I preferred. And it also gave me references. As you can see, the little grayed out areas. These are all the references and where it's picked up the information from, which is always great for you to then go and check and make sure it's giving you the right information. Now, if we are looking at deep research and I put in the exact same thing, there's a slight difference in the way it responds. So instead of it just giving me a response, what it does now is it comes back and says, if you want me to do this report properly, I'm going to need some more information from you. Just like the same thing would happen if it was someone in your team. So it came back and asked me some extra additional questions to make sure that the report it gave me was spot on. And it did exactly that. So this time it took 26 minutes as opposed to a matter of seconds, and it got information from 26 sources. It's listed everything in a really nice, easy to read format with headings, bullet points, even giving me sort of the pros and cons of incorporation, even though I didn't ask it to do that. And then next step, so if I wanted to go to my client and say, this is what you should do. And then finally at the end, it's giving me a conclusion and all of the resources that it has found, which is just so impressive. Now, I do want to just caveat that slightly and say, when you're using this deep research, don't forget that your clients will also have access to this. So your clients will be coming to you and saying, I've done a deep research report that says that I can claim dog food for my Chihuahua as a security dog, as opposed to previously where it would be a friend down the pub that told them that information, and it'd be very easy for you to say your friend's wrong. Now we have to go against very, very confident AI models that have got access to the entire internet, and it's going to be quite a trust battle. With that in mind as well, your juniors might struggle with the confidence to tell their clients that, you know, that's not correct, or to think about it a different way. And another use case, so we've moved on from ChatGPT, let's move on to Google Sheets. So if you are a Google user, I didn't want to leave you out. I know I've talked about Microsoft already. There are some really great AI use cases now in Google where you can actually put in a bit like that formula, but you can speak to it as normal. So where we would normally do sort of like equals sum in an Excel spreadsheet, Google's now got AI. So you start with AI and then you can write your description. So summarize all the invoices and identify any that are suspiciously high or low in this cell range. Done. And that means that this formula creation that we previously saw on sheets like this is absolutely, well, I think it's dead. I don't think we need to do that anymore. There's also a few other things that we can do. So you can use Google to help me organize my sheets. So you could say, could you put information into tables, which is great for kind of budgeting and things like that. And it's only human to make mistakes. So if Gemini can pop into your sheets and recognize them, it's going to reduce the risk of those human mistakes. So I've talked a little bit about speaking to it in normal human language, and I thought it would be really useful for you to understand a bit more about prompting, which is another new word for us all to learn and use in the world of AI. But prompting it's not that scary. It's essentially the way you ask a question. It's the way you speak to these models. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that now. Because this is what's made AI accessible. Can just use prompting, and as long as we use it properly, we will get the right answer. So a quick analogy for you. Let's say a guy goes into a restaurant and he asks for some food and he doesn't like fish. But all he said is, I want food. So if he goes in and is a bit more specific and he says, I want a rare steak with chunky chips and garlic butter, he's going to get a little bit closer to what he wants because he's being more specific. But then he needs to add a little bit more and tell the guy that he's got an intolerance or an allergy, and he will then receive the meal that he wants. And it's exactly the same when it comes to prompting. The more brief and short you are, the less likely you are to get what you want. So, how do we write a good prompt? Well, I've got 7 steps for you here that hopefully will help you when it comes to speaking to these models. So whether it's the Copilots, the Google Geminis, the OpenAI ChatGPTs, any of these large language models that you're using, this is how to write a good prompt. So number 1, it's got to have some clarity and some context. So provide enough background for the AI model to understand your intent. And be specific, so avoid being too vague. You don't want any requests that the details are lacking, or it's hard for them to understand exactly what it is you want because they could go off on a tangent. Also specify the type of response that you want. So if you're looking for bullet points, or you want a table, or you want step-by-step instructions, for example. And examples are always great. Now I've put this in italic because it's kind of a bit more optional, but it does mean you will get a better response if you can give it as an example. Also a tone and or style. So maybe you say, I want this to be more professional, more casual, more concise, and then give it some constraints. So again, in italics, because this is something that maybe isn't essential, but it does help. So setting limits for that response. A really easy one here is do not hallucinate, or do not make something up, or do not give me an answer if you cannot back up the answer. And then finally, and this is the holy grail of getting a good prompt, is once you've received a response, giving these models feedback will mean that going forward, you're consistently getting better results. And over time, you'll see a huge time saving. So as an example of a good prompt, I've written one here. So context and clarity is that I'm an accountant in the UK. I've been specific and said that I want to win a new client, which is the reason why I'm asking this question. I've said I want the results to be in an easy to read and structured format so that I can present straight to the client. That's number 3. I have given it an example and said that I would like to know issues on that type of business would face. The tone and or style, they know that it needs to be presented in front of a client. And the constraint is please do not hallucinate. The feedback will come once it gives me the response. So if I go into a large language model and I type this and basically say that I want to win this new client, could you do some analysis on the business, things that I need to know about the industry, and suggest ways that I can help improve that business, it comes up with a response. This is just me using ChatGPT 4.0 here, and it gives me the thought process first of all, and you can see here that the response is exactly as I wanted it to be. We've got a company snapshot, an overview of who founded it. We've got the nature of the business. I've not had to do any work here. It's also got an overview of the whole industry. Even tells me who the competitors are of this specific business that I wanted to win. The major players that are also in this area. And as we go further down, it says about the potential challenges that that business will face. So supply chain, competitors, and the ways that we can improve. So we're not just going into the meeting with this potential client and saying, we know you've got these issues. We're saying, we know you've got these issues and here's how we can help. And as you can see, the response is in such a nice, fluid, easy to read format. It's even given specifics on how an accountant can help, so we can go in with that confidence. And then finally, a conclusion at the end there. So at the bottom, you can see these icons. This is where we can switch the model we're using, but this is also where we can give it feedback. So thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you want it to be. And just to go back slightly, what I would say as well is, when you are giving it feedback, I had a client who did this, an accountant, and they wrote a letter. And they said, oh, the letters are good, but I always have to amend them. And I said, well, when you've amended it, have you thrown back in your amended letter? And they said, oh, no, I've not tried that. I said, well, that's what you need to do, to throw back in your amended letter and say, thank you for your suggestions. I've used them, and this is how I've tailored it. And by the third go, they now no longer have to amend those letters, which is great. So as I said, I didn't want to go too much into future gazing, but I will just touch slightly on agents. I know that this has also been covered over these amazing days with the gang, which is brilliant, but just a quick one just to let you know about agents and why it's super important that you're ready for them. Now, you can use, if you feel like everything I've gone through today is quite foundational for you, AI is accessible, but you want to move on to the next step, agents, fantastic. Foundationally, using Microsoft Copilot to kind of introduce them, or you might want to use a standalone product like N8N, which is for more advanced use cases. What I would say about agents is that instead of sort of decision trees type automation that you normally see, where it's like, if this happens, then this would, like a bank rule, this is actually when the model can go and perform the tasks. So it learns from historical data and then it will find a way to complete it just like a team member would. So have a go at it if you do have Microsoft Copilot Studio. An example here would be to say, could you file any emails that look like marketing in this folder? So you don't have to go in and create a rule for each one. You're asking it to come up with that thought in its head. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up, and I said I'm not going to go into agents, is actually that you need to be organized. So now is the time to get your practice AI ready. You need to find a way that you can help these models help you. So for example, if these models are going to go into your data and find information for you, how easy is that to do? Will it be able to do that? Just like if you had someone come and join your firm tomorrow, could they go into your files and folders? Are they organized enough to do this? And I really like this image because for me, this is what it's all about. It's about that collaborative working. Like, we shouldn't feel guilty that we're thinking about using AI. Our clients will be expecting this. Our clients will be looking for firms that are finding ways to save time so that they get their information quicker, they get it more accurate, and it's in a way that they also want to work. They've got this at their fingertips now. They are using this day to day as well. So to kind of bring it back full circle, I guess, because I know it started with human intelligence versus artificial intelligence. Forbes did a high demand human skills survey, and these are the skills that they believe are going to be required by humans in the future. In this AI revolution. And notice, not a lot of these are around being able to write in code or anything like that. I won't go through them, but just something to consider when you're next doing a performance review or recruiting. You need people that have got that curiosity. You need people that are going to think outside the box and how we can use this and how we can improve the practice. And then more importantly, if they're going to be doing that and using AI, do they have the empathy and the interpersonal skills to deal with clients? Because that is what really, really matters. Clients want low tax, they want low penalties, they want things done fast and accurately. They want someone that's going to listen to them. They want that advice, that accountability, and that wisdom. And let's face it, the years that we've been in this industry, that experience comes with being you. So please don't think that AI can take your job or anything like that. All it's going to do is allow you to provide all of the things that I've put on the screen here. It's going to allow you to provide all of these things to your clients. Embrace it and just don't allow yourself to get bogged down. Stay informed and not consumed is my opinion. And build habits within the practice. So failure to prepare is preparing to fail. If you do not get ready for this, if you don't build those habits with your team to get organized with the data, or have you explored if AI can do that certain aspect of that autonomous part of your job that you don't enjoy doing? That is really important. And if you are already using AI and you think, well, it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, instead of thinking about the 2 out of 10 things that it doesn't do for you, make sure that you are fully skilled on the 8 things it does, because when those 2 things come in, that's where you're going to set yourselves ahead of your competitors. As I said, stay informed, not consumed. That's my email there. I'm also on LinkedIn, Billie Mcloughlin, ACCA. So if you have any questions, you want to run anything by me, or maybe you just want to boast and say, hey, I've just used it for this and it was really great, I'm all ears. I love to hear it. And I hope today has been useful for you. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Billy. That was awesome. So many good use cases, and even I feel like I'm learning a few things in that session today. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom. For those that want to learn more about Billy, you can find her on LinkedIn. And as mentioned, you'll be able to check out the handouts, transcripts, and things from this session as well. My job now is to introduce you to our next session. So we only have one session at 12 o'clock today, and that is with Jordan Vickery and Martin Brennan. That is from 0 to 35 employees, what it really takes to scale a modern accounting firm. Martin Brennan runs a really successful firm in the UK, and we've been really fortunate to have him on the summit chatting with Jordan today. So that session starts at 12 p.m. So we'll see you back here, 12 p.m. You can jump onto the summit page to get into that session if you've not registered for it. It's going to be great. Otherwise, thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing more posts and things online. Have a good lunch break or morning tea. Get a coffee, have a tea. I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.